Fanzone, united by the game, powered by Moore's World of Sport.
Welcome back to Fanzone. It is episode 2, and we're very excited to be in the studio again. And as we promised in the first episode, and we'll continue to promise, we're bringing you everything PSL, from in-depth analysis to unmatched coverage, and also a fan-fueled passion for the PSL. Joining me is the co-presenter of Fanzone, and looking ahead to you, Steve. How are you doing today?
It's great. Excited to be here. So much to talk about.
Yeah, it's going to be a great episode, and as you can see here, our guests, I've got a good range of guests here. So starting closest to me is Dean DuPlessis. Dean, how are you doing today?
I am exceptionally well, thank you. Great to be here.
Thank you. So Dean is a cricketing expert. He has been covering the game for 24 years, so definitely a long time, a wealth of knowledge, and we're going to really get into the cricket side with him. And to Dean's left is Simba. Simba, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Sips. How are you? Yeah, I'm Simba Chiminya, an expert, should I say, call myself an expert in Division 1 football, as well as the PSL.
Yeah, so Simba is the Star FM sportscaster, and as he said, he knows everything football from Division 1 to also the PSL, so he's going to be bringing his insights and knowledge to the game. But that brings us to the end of the introductions. Let us head now into the first segment, which is the Matchday 13 Roundup. So, Matchday 13, a lot of great football being played. There were a couple of draws and a couple of surprise wins, being Herentals beat Highlanders while they were the away team. But the first match I really want to dig into is the Ngezi versus Dynamos game. Simba, I'm looking at you. What did you think of that result, Ngezi winning 2-1?
I think you look at the character that Ngezi had in that game. They were a goal down, but they managed to rally back in that game, get an equalizer, and kept on probing, pushing until they managed to get that penalty. Of course, last-minute penalty, but managed to get that win. It's a win that you'd want to get, particularly when you're playing against a big team like Dynamos. Yes, they may not be playing well, but still in stature, they are still one of those big teams. And for Dynamos, I think, it's one game that they will look back and say we dropped, the 3 points that we thought we could have collected because this was an away assignment for their coach, Saul Chaminuka, and he thought he was going to get his first win, but it was not to be. So for me, I think it was a good result for Ngezi Platinum Stars because they really needed the points to keep in touching distance of the log leaders, because if you look at their team, you'd say that it's one of those good teams on paper, and that should also be fighting for the honours this year and competing with the top teams, Moors, Simba, Bhora, Scotland.
Yeah. And Steve, looking at you, Dynamos managed to score a goal away. We know how they've struggled throughout the season to score a goal. So are you surprised that they're able to score a goul?
It was going well. Frank Ajamang, the Ghanaian, getting the goal in the first half. They looked to be on for a really good result at long last. Saul Chaminuka's second game in charge, but then conceding 2 goals late on. That's cause for concern. So 1 or 2 positives there, but they would have wanted to have seen that out. But Ngezi, difficult, of course, to face away from home. But at least a goal in open play for Dynamos.
Yeah, look, I think if you're a Dynamos fan, you're going to look at this 2025-26 season as before Saul and after Saul. Because before Saul had come in, right up until Matchday 11, Dynamos had only scored 2 goals. Whereas now on Matchday 12 and 13, once Saul has come in, they've already equalised that, their goal against Caps and their goal, obviously, this weekend over Ngezi. So definitely a step in the right direction. Simba, how do you think Saul is doing so far?
It will be really difficult to judge because every coach is judged by the results. And the first game, of course, that draw against Cape United in a derby, and then you go away, you take the lead, surrender it, and lose that game. But so far, you can't really judge him harshly because he lost 1 game, drew another against a big team. But also looking at the arsenal at his disposal, you'd say that there is still a lot of work because look, the players that are there, the goals that have been scored, 1 goal, Shadrack Nyawa, who is a midfielder, and then the other one is striker now getting to score, Frank Ajiman, and the other goal was an own goal. So 3 goals so far. it's really difficult task for him because the players themselves haven't been really scoring, and you'd really need to put some confidence in those players so that they start to score. And you look at the composition of the team as well. In other teams, you have got midfielders scoring, you have defenders scoring, but at Dynamos, those things haven't been really doing.
Well, that end result, as we said earlier, was 2-1 in favour of Ngezi. And so there wasn't really much surprise when it came to result. We were expecting Ngezi to win. But just the next game I want to touch on is the Caps Simba Bhora. Simba Bhora very dominant on the park, 3-1. Steve, what do you think about that result for Simba Bhora?
Yeah, it's good for Simba Bhora. Remember, they're going to be representing Zimbabwe in the CAF Champions League starting in August. So as a nation, we're rooting behind them, and they made a slow start to the season. Now they're looking pretty fearsome. They're playing good football. The squad is full of quality players, and they're gelling well now. Beautiful solo goal from Donald Mudadi, lovely run, great finish from him. But for Caps, Ian Bakala, the coach, now 3 games, 2 draws and a defeat. They were 3-0 down, remember, it's a late goal that they got to pull one back. Still, quite a few fans were there at Rufaro Stadium, but I think Simba now the fans are not going to really be tolerating this much more now with this kind of result.
Yes, definitely, Steve. For every fan would want a win for his team. So even if you say the team played well, but without getting results that they desire, the fans would never be pacified. And if you look at Cape United, going to this game, they thought probably they were going to win, but being at home, but they were outplayed by Simba Bhora. And you look at their strikers, they started with Joseph Manuel. They also started with Siphiwe Hlophe, but they didn't do anything tangible. It was until the introduction of Tendai Matindife that he started creating something up front, and also Junior Bunjira. So you look at Cape United, look at the players on paper, but the results are not coming. And even when you look at their coach, look at history in Zambia, Ian Bakala, who was at Nkana, he was at Forest Rangers, and also assistant at Cabo Warriors. But look at the time that he spent at those clubs. Nothing really tangible came out of those teams. So I think it's a cause concern again for the club and supporters, because you look at what he did in Zambia, and if there is something that he is going to really change at Cape United, I don't really think there's going to be much that is going to change.
Yeah, what he did do with Zambia, he took the under-17s to the FIFA World Cup, under-17 World Cup later this year. Although that was a tournament where the top 10 teams qualified a couple of months ago. They reached the quarterfinals there. So he's admired by the fans in Zambia at national team level, but like Simba says, at club level, there are a lot of questions there, and he's got a lot to prove now.
Yeah, well, coming down from a 3-goal deficit, he did pip one in the back, but obviously a lot of trouble for Caps United. But just the last game I want to touch on is the Scotland versus Chicken game. So the match was abandoned, and before you get to the controversial aspect a little bit later, the score was 0-0 right up until the last minute. Like, come on, Simba, surely this is Scotland playing at home. By no means is Chicken a bad team, but come on, you have to... As Scotland, they should be able to scoring at least 1 goal against Chicken.
Yeah, when you look at where Chicken are coming from, I think this is one of the bad start to the season in so many years. They haven't been really doing well. And going into this game, or coming into this game, you thought maybe Scotland were going to get a goal in the first half. But look at the changes that are also done to the team. So many changes in that team. And they didn't really create so many chances. Actually, it was Chicken Inn who had more chances that they could have at least scored. And I think the game turned its corner when Walter Msona came on. And he was also the man that pulled the trigger. It resulted in that penalty that was awarded. So I think it was about a lot of tinkering in that team that happened. But still looking at that arsenal that Scotland has, I thought that they should have at least scored a goal much earlier.
Yeah. Well, speaking about the Scotland game, it definitely did mess up my predictions as to what I thought would happen. But speaking about predictions, let's take a look now at the Moors PSL Predictor update. Alright, so the Moors PSL Predictor is heating up, and a big congratulations to Icon 505 again, still at the top. Go on, guys, I thought I had you riled up enough to dethrone him, but he seems to be very comfortably perched on his throne. Also, well done to Simba, who's retained his position in second. But just looking at this table here, there have been a couple of shake-ups. Vamatsa, who was closer up to the top spot, she has moved down all the way into 9th. And poor old Ice Wave has actually moved out of the top 10, is actually sitting at 15th. But also, look at these people here. King K, he has gone up 10 positions and sitting in 5th. So thank you to all of those who are participating and providing us with some very good entertainment. But looking at you, Steve, as I said, this weekend, it was a lot going on in the PSL. A lot of games which we didn't expect to go the way it went. What game threw you off in terms of the predicting aspect?
Yeah, the one that got me was at Barberfields. Highlanders losing 1-0 to Herentals. That was surely going to be a home win for Boss. So, having said that, if you look at current form, the Herentals are a team in very good form. That's seen them rise up to 4th position. So, if you're actually doing the predictor, current form is a good way of looking at it. Even Scotland, I thought that they were going to bang in a whole load of goals there, but they haven't been scoring, as you've already pointed out on the show. But the Ngezi Dynamos, I guess that would have been one that many did predict correctly. Even the Dynamos fans would have known that was going to be a tough one.
Yeah, well, definitely the result that seemed to stump a lot of people was that Herentals win over Highlanders, and also that match being abandoned from between Scotland and Chicken Inn. But guys, please keep predicting. Sign up on fanzone.co.zw. There's a Suzuki Espresso up for grabs, which currently at the moment Icon has got one hand on at the moment. But you can also, we've introduced the private leagues, play with your friends, your families, a good way to get a bit of entertainment and maybe bragging rights. I know in the Fanzone office we also have one. I've now moved up to 3rd, which I'm very proud about. But now, let's look ahead to Matchday 14, which is coming up this weekend. Matchday 14. All I can say, I'm actually about to be speechless, is wow, what a weekend of football we are about to have. Steve, maybe tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, I think the fixture many of us were looking forward to has arrived this Saturday at Ngoni Stadium in Norton. The two big promoted sides, we've got Moors hosting Scotland. A lot of competition between them last season in Division 1, Simba. The stadium's going to be packed, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely, and no doubt that Moors and Scotland has brought an A game to our league. Look at what happened last season. Ngoni Stadium before the renovations was packed, and just looking forward to another scenario like that. When they clash on Saturday, and just looking at these two teams, what they have brought to the league from day one up to now, we've been talking about them, and this is the kind of stuff that you want when the big giants are struggling. There are new entrants who are coming in and taking the center stage, and there is no day that passes without us talking about more Scotland, and I'm just looking forward to this game.
And possible star players there. Billy Veremu, another great goal for Moors, that equaliser at the weekend. They'll be happy to have him up front.
Yeah, and for Moors, what I like most about them is they play as a unit. They cover for each other, especially when you look at they get lose the ball, but for the second ball you don't beat them. They fight for each other. And last season I was talking about the likes of Tafadzwa George, Tafadzwa Nyabunze, and these guys are the guys that I saw playing in the Division 1, rising to be stars in the PSO. Look at Billy Verem. Not many people gave him a chance, but now on how many goals? 8 goals. And even Martin Mapisa has been doing well behind the sticks and also cover. Even on the bench, Francis Tizai also coming in when he's called to action and doing well. And looking at also at Scotland, you look at the player that they have Michael Tapera, being that super sub that he has been, and when he's called in to come in, he has been doing well. I also liked Marvelous Chigumira when he was given a chance to start against Chicken Inn. The way that he sat on that right back and he was so comfortable. And this is kind of stuff that you'd want to see on Saturday. Players that are really there to showcase to us what they are really made of.
Yeah, well, looking at Saturday, if I put myself in the shoes of Scotland, so Moors have played 4 games at home, Ngoni Stadium home, and 2 of them they had very big scares against Mnika Diamonds, where they scored first, and also against Tal1, where Tal1 scored 2 goals actually, so they came back from a 2-goal deficit. But I think if you are in the Scotland team, you have to put pressure on Moors and score first, because I feel like if Moors concede the first goal, it'll be very hard to come back, especially against such a team as Scotland. Steve, what would you think about that?
Yeah, those strikers must deliver for Scotland this time. The likes of Tymon Machopi, the likes of Kama Billy at Walter Musona, reigning Soccer Star of the Year. They've got to be top of their game, because remember, Moors are still unbeaten, and Scotland are the team with more pressure on them. It's just such an appetising fixture, this one.
It is indeed. And with Moors being unbeaten, if there is a team to beat Moors at home, it's definitely going to be Scotland.
You just go to last season, and Scotland were like they were this year. They are this year. Last year they had some stars, big name stars. Also the likes of Ronald Fumbiza are still there. They had Dean Van Kamba, they had Alan Gadziko. But they scored first, Dean Van Kamba, and they thought it was the end. They were going to win that game, but boom, Arthur Banda came from Norway, headed in the equalizer. So I think for Moors, they were still being on that. They would not surrender until it's over. So the same thing is probably going to happen this time around. Even if Scotland gets to score first, I don't think that Moors are going to let them go away with it. And they've shown the character in the matches that you've alluded to. The one against Tier 1, the other that they also played against Maninga Diamonds. They will just come to baked into this game. They've got the character. They've got that strong character. And you look at the players that they have right now. They fight for everything, and they also want to make history. Look, we had ZPC Kariba coming in as the debutants, having a run of 19 games unbeaten, and now Moors are at 12, and they also wants to go on, probably beat that record by ZPC Kariba.
And Simba, if I can probe and ask you, what do you think? What is your prediction for that Moors Scotland game?
I would just rewind to last year, 1-1 draw.
1-1 draw. And for you, Steve?
Yeah, I'm going to say 2-2. I think there won't be that much between them at all. I just hope for plenty of goals there. I'll say 2-2.
Yeah, I think I'll be a bit more conservative with Simba and say a 1-1 draw. But the next game we're going to look at is Dynamos versus Highlanders. So both of these teams off the back of a defeat, Highlanders getting a shock and losing to Herentals. How do you think they're going to come back in this game, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, this still remains the biggest fixture in Zimbabwean football. Interesting, it comes the same weekend as the high-profile clash of the 2 newly promoted teams, Moors and Scotland. Judging by the way that people did pitch up for the Caps Dynamos game a couple of weeks ago, you would think this is still going to be very well attended. Probably Highlanders have been the better of the 2 teams so far this season, Simba.
Yeah, of course, 80 points, and they have how many wins? I think 4 wins. And for Highlanders also, I think they will always bring that excitement with their band of travelling fans, and they never really disappoint. And for this game, like you said, I think it's no matter how Dynamos are playing badly or Highlanders are playing badly, but remains the biggest fixture on the local calendar. And the fans will still turn out, and the teams also give their best. But I think when you look at Highlanders, for me, they are punching below the belt, because below their weight. Because when you look at Highlanders, the players that they had, and we had Brighton Ngube, we had Reason Sibanda. At the start of the season, they were banging in goals, but seems to have gone on a drought. But still, they've got a compact team and that can show up and illuminate at any time.
Yeah, well, I think I'm going to be the devil's advocate here, and I'm going to be very controversial. I'm going to say it's going to be a 1-0 win for Dynamos. I think what Saul is doing, the home ground advantage, I think maybe Highlanders might be reeling from last weekend's loss. That's my prediction out there, Steve.
Yeah, they really struggled in the derby at Harare for many years, did Highlanders. There's huge pressure for Dynamos. I think if they don't win this, or at least if they don't get a decent performance in a draw, then fans will start to stay away from Rufaro Stadium. But I would still think Dynamos can rise to the challenge. Hey, but this one could go either way. I'll give it to Highlanders 2-1.
And for you, Simba?
I agree with you. I think it's a game that Dynamos are going to rise. I don't think so. Chiminya and his team are going to let this one go to Highlanders. And if they can win this one, they can pacify the supporters. And I think that's what they're going to do. But it's going to be a slender win.
Yeah, well, let us know in the comments who you think was going to win this week, and also your most anticipated match. So the PSL has been heating up, but let us not forget about Division 1 and what has been going on there. So we're going to look to our expert and the sportscaster here, Simba. Give us a little summary of what has been going on in Division 1.
Yeah, there is a lot of excitement. Of course, people are just looking at the PSL, but things are hotting up in the Division 1, the 4 regional leagues, and to start with the Northern Region Soccer League. And at the top, there is Agama on 19 points. And if you look at the difference between the top, that is the team that is at the top, Agama is 19 points, and look at the team that is on number 5. It's the difference just 3 points. Zambezi, GNC, they've got 16 points. And look at the top teams. They've got the top coaches. Look at Agama. They've got a serial winner in Arthur Tutani. And you've got Ngombeaora number 2, just a point behind Agama. They are coached by Nisbet Yabo Saruchera. You also have in the Harare City, they are being coached by Dey Gutu, who won the title in 2023 with Chikutu Pirates. And then you also have Zambezi GNC. They are coached by Ralph Kawandera. So you look at the competition that is there in Northern Region. It's very tough, and you can't really tell who is going to win the title, because in the past weeks the teams have been alternating the top position. And the same is happening even in the Eastern Region. You've got FC Hunters. They also have that competition with Tenex. They're just separated by a point after 9 games. And at the top you've got Hunters. They've got 4 points, and then you've got also Tenex, the former PSO side, just behind a point. And you go to the Central Region again. There's so much competition, and I think it's going to be really tough this season, the Central Region. You've got Shesham there on top with 22 points, and you've got Hard Rock, and Hard Rock are coached by Luke Masomere, and they have got 19 points. They've got quite a number of stars that were playing the Premier League, the likes of Devon Chafa. You've got Donald Ngoma, Clopas Dube. They've got 2 foreigners, one Matthias Kigonya from Uganda. They also have Obina from Nigeria. So, yeah, there's going to be some midweek fixtures, and Shesham, the log leaders, are at home at Bata Stadium against Gwanda Pirates, coached by former Islanders midfielder Johannes Ngozo. And in their team, they have got the likes of Danny Dekopiri. He also played in South Africa, Warriors, and they also have the likes of Newman Sianchali, who also played for the top 3 in the Premier League. So it's going to be really competition. And you've got Hard Rock. They are away to Magla Stadium against Jamie West, a team from Mberengwa. And you go to the Southern Region, still some competition. Teams that are in the Premier League. You have got Blaue Chiefs. They are on top on 18 points. And second position, there is Wange on 18 points. And these 2 teams have been alternating the top spot. And don't forget that there is also Blaue Warriors on 30 position. There is also Blaue City, former Premier League side. So when you look at the Division 1, there is so much competition, and things are hotting up.
Exactly, a lot of competition in Division 1, and we'll see how it unfolds over the next couple of weeks, and as we go to the next part of our talk, which is Beyond the Pitch.
So in cricket, the one-off test between Zimbabwe and England at Trent Bridge in Nottingham has come and gone. We were so excited about it. Of course, we were optimistic, but knew it would be a difficult one. And in the end, the Chevrons lost the game inside 3 days, but no doubt plenty of positives. Dean DuPlessis is with us, voice of cricket. What are your thoughts on the test, Dean?
Steve, well, yes, I think as you very correctly said, it went according to plan, or according to how people expected it to go. But honestly, I think before we get into the meat and potatoes in terms of the result and that, I honestly do believe that cricket was the winner here. And I know it's a cliche that we love using in terms of our different sports and that, but my goodness me, for those of you who were privileged enough to watch it or to listen to it, you would have heard and witnessed the Zimbabwe atmosphere at Trent Bridge. Absolutely wonderful stuff. And I heard Brian Bennett and Craig Irvin talking about the sense that it felt to them as if they were at Harare Sports Club and actually listening to the various singing and chanting that you would have at Harare Sports Club, or indeed at Queen's for that matter. In terms of the result, well, I think, to be honest with you, on the first day, Zimbabwe were pretty much like rabbits in the headlights, weren't they? Because they won the toss, they decided to bowl, and rightly so. The overhead conditions very much dictated, almost demanded, that whoever wins the toss would bowl first. You heard Ben Stokes, the English captain, saying how they also would have loved to have had a bowl on that pitch, which actually turned out to be a very good one. But Zimbabwe just unfortunately were not able to continuously put the ball in good areas. So Blessing Muzarabani's first 3 overs were pretty effective, but then unfortunately even he then started to be very, very wayward. Poor old Richard Ngarava, not only did he go down with an injury, but he struggled a bit just in terms of where he wanted to bowl. And I think we may have to start asking questions about how useful at this particular moment in time he's going to be with the red ball. But then now I also have to admit that Craig Irvin, like the bowlers, was caught up in the headlights like rabbits would be, because as soon as a ball was hit into a certain area, a fielder would be taken out and try to then plug that area. I was also a bit bewildered as to why Craig Irvin only brought Victor Nyauchi into the attack 19 minutes before the luncheon interval on day one. So Victor considerably slower in terms of pace, slower than Richard Ngarava, Blessing Muzarabani and Tanaka Chivanga. But what he does have is swing. He gets the ball to swing, and he would have utilized, well, it's hindsight, but I feel that he would have utilized those overhead conditions very nicely. But I think everybody, to be perfectly honest with you, was a little overawed and a little overcome in terms of playing England after 22 years in England and playing a very, very strong England side. And I think that first day, England just simply took advantage of it. Some of the balls that were bowled were decent, but Ben Duckerton, Zach Crawley, and in particular Ollie Pope were ruthless in the way that they went about dismantling that bowling attack. Yeah, and before the match, Coach Justin Salmon said, well, anything can happen, we'll see how it goes. But of course, this is Test cricket, and you're not going to get a lucky win in a Test match, or you're highly unlikely to, aren't you, Dean? But did we do enough to advertise ourselves to other big nations that it's worth slotting us in for a fixture? Yes, I think so. And again, it's one of these things where I can already see people's eyebrows raising and saying, what are you talking about? Yes, we did. The Test match, it was a 4-day Test match, and I think it's worth mentioning, Test cricket is normally played over 5 days. This has been curtailed to a 4-day Test. So not only was it a 4-day Test, Zimbabwe lost that Test within 2.5 days. But anybody who understands cricket, and there's a difference between somebody who watches cricket and somebody who understands cricket, you will see that there were some fighting, albeit very intermittent, but there were times when fighting spirit was shown. I mean, Zimbabwe would have been a bit disappointed in the first innings. They were 156 for 2 and 200 for 3, and then the next thing they were 265 all out. That would have hurt a bit. And then again in the second innings, 206 for 4, and then 250 all out. So that's not nice, because you do want your middle and lower order to contribute as well. But the only way that that's going to get better is for Zimbabwe to be playing more fixtures against the bigger nations. Now, fortunately, we do have South Africa and New Zealand, who are two very, very good sides. They're going to be entertaining the crowds down in Bulawayo. So that'll be good. And it may look a bit messy at first, but it will get better. It will get better, but they need to be playing these stronger teams in order to I suppose, get all the attributes that you want in terms of understanding your technique, knowing your strengths and your weaknesses, but also learning about the opposition and their strengths and weaknesses. For example, Steve, did you see how beautifully all the England batsmen rotated strike in the test matches as well? They didn't just look to score boundaries. So where Zimbabwe were batting, they saw fielders. When England were batting, they saw gaps, and they utilized that. But that's all through experience. That's got nothing to do with how good you are or your lack of ability. That's just about understanding your game as you go along. And I mean, obviously England play huge amounts of test cricket, but also their county setup, in other words their first class domestic setup, is very, very strong as well.
Yeah, I think there were enough positives there. I think the Chevrons did us proud. The fans were fantastic, the Zimbabwe fans there in Nottingham. Anyway, lots in the schoolboy rugby as well, Sips, to talk about.
Yeah, so weekend 2 was definitely a big clash, probably the biggest one being Georges versus St. John's. St. George's coming out very dominantly, actually, 45 points to 29, which may be a bit of an unexpected gap between the two sides. Then also, on the other rugby fixtures was Peterhouse versus Lomagandi. Peterhouse just shutting down the space of the Lomagandi Speedsters and actually winning 46 points to 23. The opening weekend of the Paramount Garments Harare Senior League was very successful. You know, the two debutant teams, Southern City, had a very tough fixture against Harare Sports Club and Marindera Talents as well. But again, a good weekend overall at Old Georgians. And again, rugby wins at the end of the day. So over to you, Steve.
Yeah, big scores there. And another massive highlight of the weekend, Zimbabwe held the Regional Annual Sports Awards for the first time. This is Region 5, 10 nations considered for the Sports Awards, and we did host it in style. There was a special Country of the Year award for Zimbabwe. But the big one, the Sportsperson of the Year, went to Letsile Teboho, who won gold at the Paris Olympics for Botswana in the men's 200 metres. That shows you how high the standard was there. And Malawi's Tabitha Chawinga, she took the Sportswoman of the Year award, and there was a lot for the region to be excited about, and Zimbabwe hosted this extremely well.
Yeah, so let us now dive into Rumours and Rubbish. Rumours and Rubbish are definitely one of the favorite segments from the previous episode. And again, I will give a little disclaimer. Everything said here is just opinion-based and for fun. But looking at you, Simba, we're going to talk about the Moors, the Scotland versus Chickening game and that referee's call. Tell us what you think about that call.
Yeah, that call is debatable because, the interpretation of that handball. But the rubbish in all that is the reaction that we saw from the chicken-in players. And you can't do that at a professional level. And, the delays that they made, and you can't have the goalkeeper moving off his line to the other end, trying to delay. And also, George Majika was given a red card for refusing to come out of that box. And after being given that red card, he remained on the pitch. And also the rubbish, the fans who were on the city end. And I'm sure that is a rented crowd from certain teams. And you have those fans saying, Arirowe, Pena. And they started throwing missiles so that the penalty could not be taken. For me, it was rubbish. And also the referee, I'll also have something on him because you need to be firm. You can't backpedal and allow the players to do as they wish. He should have just stood his ground as the man in charge. So for me, there was rubbish. And also rubbish coming in from the lower field. A game is delayed because there is no ambulance. And what was the home team doing? Triangle. They should have done something. And look, just 3 minutes into the game, a player's leg is broken. So what would have happened if you started without an ambulance? So for me, that's another rubbish.
Yeah, well done to the authorities there for waiting for the ambulance. Very ironic that there was that very sad broken leg for the triangle goalkeeper. But I thought Chicken In, also in the rubbish category, they just did themselves a disservice because it was a debatable penalty. The player was hit here. Clearly in the handball area, just above the elbow. whether the arm was natural or unnatural, that was the big bone of contention. But they should have let the penalty be taken. They could have saved it. It would have been 0-0. If they had conceded the penalty, it'd be 1-0, but now they're going to lose the game on a 3-0 scoreline.
Yeah, it's also a fine coming their way because, look, there was also a penalty that was awarded yesterday when a Triangle given a penalty. And, of course, Manica Diamonds protested, but they didn't protest the way that Chicken Inn did. It was taken, and Manica Diamonds goalkeeper, Thaddeus Baye, saved that penalty. And also credit to Dynamos. They were also a penalty was awarded against them on the last minute. But like their coach, Chiminya, said, he is not a bad loser. He allowed the penalty to be taken. And that is what you have to do in a football in a match.
Yeah, so debatable, those ones. Dean, you've got an interesting couple of, well, one's a cricket rumour, one's an off-the-chart rumour.
So let's start with the off-the-chart rumour. Earlier on, we were talking about the fact that some lucky winner is going to win a Suzuki Expresso. It's a nice little car, that. Now, the rumour is this, that whoever wins the Suzuki Expresso, when the vehicle is handed over, that they are going to be given a personal experience of being driven around the block by yours truly, Dean DuPlessis, who is the world's first totally and utterly blind cricket commentator and analyst and presenter. I will be driving you around the block, and I promise, the rumour is that I won't even be wearing a blindfold. So, is that a rumour?
The rumour, yes, and a nice cricket one as well.
And then the cricket rumour, yeah. So this is very interesting. I was listening to a broadcast on radio regarding during this recently concluded test between England and Zimbabwe, and there was a former fast bowler who played for Zimbabwe who was part of the commentary team, who suggested that Tom Curran, obviously the brother of Ben Curran, who now plays for Zimbabwe, and Sam Curran may make himself available for Zimbabwe.
Wow.
Now, that is pretty substantial. I doubt very much that he would play as a test bowler because he's predominantly been playing white ball cricket for the last 5 or so years. Is that a rumour or is that rubbish?
Well, that'll be amazing.
It would be amazing. But Dean, I want to ask you, maybe it is a rumour, but do you think Sam could be convinced of playing for Zimbabwe?
No, I don't think so. Sam has just recently taken over the captaincy of Surrey in the white ball format. And look, I mean, I suppose to be fair, there are ways around it because if you actually remember, there was a time when Heath Streak was captaining Warwickshire and still played for Zimbabwe. I suppose it can be done. But the whole dynamics of cricket from then until now has changed. And I think that Sam is a sort of individual that, well, all the cricketers are, they take these things very, very seriously. I'm not suggesting that Heath Streak didn't by any means, but it's a whole different aspect in terms of, Sam will be captaining Surrey in the T20 Blast as well as I think it's called the London, the 50 over tournament, which is sponsored by somebody there in the UK. And if it does clash with the winter cricket that Zimbabwe may be playing, so that Zimbabwe's climate is of such that you can host cricket in the winter as well. There's no way that he'll be relinquishing his duties in Surrey to come across and play for Zimbabwe, so I don't think so, no.
Well, that brings us, unfortunately, to the end of episode 2. It's been a great time in the studio. Thank you, Dean and Simba, for sitting with us in the Fanzone. You've given us really a lot of insights and a good time on the studio. We are available on Facebook, X and Instagram. Follow us there on our socials, but also head on over to fanzone.co.zw. Sign yourself up for the PSL Predictor. Win a couple of sweepstake prizes if you're lucky. Challenge Icon. Can you stay another week at the top? Only time will tell. And we will see you guys in the next episode.